Last video in the disclaimer series, not all Muslims practice Islam. It sounds very obvious, but some people need obvious reminders. Not all people who identify as Muslims follow Islam or behave as Muslims should. Hello and welcome, my name is William. I'm a researcher in sociology at the University of Warwick in the UK, and this is a video series around my book, Muslims in the Neoliberal Empire, which is about how society colonizes us and what we can do about it. So if you look at the statistics published by the Pew Research Center, they've done a very, very long-term project about, people practicing their faith across the globe. You'll notice that a lot of people who identify as Muslims don't even practice they don't do the basic rituals. They don't pray. It's around 50%. They don't go to Jummah. They don't pray 5 times a day. Some of them don't even fast during Ramadan. In some countries, Muslims pray once a week. In some other countries, Muslims pray twice a year. In Central Asia, for example, lots of people identify as Muslims, but they drink alcohol. You have lots of Muslims in the UK that sell alcohol in their shops. My parents come from Poland, and in the northeast of Poland you have Tatars, who are Muslims descendant from Central Asia, who've been settled in Poland since the 14th century. The elder generation, they would pray Jummah only 14 times a year. They would pray 1 Jummah per month plus 2 Eids, 14 times a year. More people identify as Muslims. The Muslim population grows in a way, but among these people who identify as Muslims, less and less, and that was the trend in the past years, less and less practice Islam. But that's only the ritual aspect. The study doesn't take into account, things like using interest, usury or not, doesn't assess good character. And lots of people, even among people who are born into Muslim families, don't know that way before the prayer was revealed, that fasting was revealed, that zakat was revealed. I think because all of this came around the time of the Hijrah, so at least 10 years after the first revelation. So the first elements of Islam was, of course, the oneness of God, and second was good character. But we've had such an emphasis on the ritual aspect, the 5 pillars of Islam, that lots of people happen to paradoxically be Hafiz Quran. They know the Quran by heart in Arabic, but they've never read the Quran in their mother tongue. But they've never read from cover to cover the Quran in a language they understand. And even less have maybe read all the tafsirs, and even less have read the context of revelation, because every single verse has been revealed in a specific context, but not many people know that. Like, how many people think that mashallah means wow, that's beautiful? Why, it's literally no, it's mashallah, how God has wanted it. So it's not because a person identifies as Muslim that they represent Islam. It may seem obvious, but for example, how do we talk about Muslim criminals? That's actually an oxymoron. It doesn't make sense talking about a Muslim criminal, because if you're Muslim, you don't commit crime by definition. But still, these people identify as Muslim. So me as a researcher, it's very tricky. How can I differentiate? How, for example, do I talk about groups like ISIS or Bashar al-Assad, who identify as Muslims but do not behave as Muslims should? Or how do I talk about celebrities like Frenzo Harami? So these people identify as Muslim, but Frenzo Harami, like, he's been open about dealing drugs and pimping women. In my book and in my video series, when I say Muslim, I am talking about Muslim as a cultural label, because I cannot deny the Muslimness of people who identify as Muslims, especially, if they say their Shahada, if they pray. You cannot take away the title Muslim from them. Some people argue that we should use the term Muslimic to describe people who are of Muslim culture but do not necessarily practice Islam. In academia, we use the term Islamicate instead of Islamic. When you say something is Islamic, it means it refers directly to the theology, to the very, very beginning of the revelation. And this is why, rigorously, we don't say, for example, an Islamic country, because again, there is no government in the world that respects Islam to the T. So we say Islamicate, which means it's inspired by Islam, but they are not part of the revelation. One could argue that the only time there was an Islamic country in the world, or even an Islamic area, was at the time of the Prophet and maybe the four caliphs. It is very important because now lots of people utilize the term Islam more as a cultural or an identity label, something which has to do with, their appearance, their culture, the tradition they loosely follow, but it doesn't reflect at all their level of religiosity, their level of practice, and how well do they follow Islam or not. Islam is not what people do. Actually, the next video is going to be about how have Muslims been pressurized to conform to certain stereotypes, certain culture, certain traditions, certain expectations, and at the cost of their ethics, their morals. Why do people throw their morals out of the window for the sake of conforming? I hope it was useful. Thank you for watching, and again, take care of yourselves and each other.